Our young people are the product of the Western world's dying culture, Michael Snyder reports. Many look at Generation Z and wonder how things could have gotten so horribly wrong, and it is not a mystery at all. The truth is that the young adults of today are a product of the Western world's dying culture. We've often been warned that the liberal elite will fundamentally transform our culture, but in reality, they've already fundamentally transformed it. They dominate education, they dominate the media, they dominate the entertainment industry, they dominate corporate world, all levels of government, and they even dominate most of our major religious institutions. They've imposed a culture on us that is completely foreign to the culture that was once dominant in the Western world, and the consequences have been nothing short of dramatic. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Once upon a time, those living in the Western world were known for their work ethic. If you made a commitment, you were expected to follow through. And if you gave your word on something, that was considered to be as good as gold. But now the Western world is filled with young people that are extremely lazy, and they will break their word at the drop of a hat. A survey that was recently conducted in the UK demonstrates how bad things have become. Employment website Indeed surveyed 1,500 businesses and 1,500 working people in the UK and found that job ghosting is rife, with 75% of workers saying that they've ignored a prospective employer in the past year. But the youngest generation of workers are far from the worst offenders. A whopping 93% of Gen Zers told the global recruitment platform that they've flaked out of an interview. Worse still, a staggering 87% managed to charm their way through interviews, secure the job, and sign the contract only to leave their new boss stranded on the very first day. I was stunned when I saw those numbers. Of course, things are very similar on this side of the Atlantic. In fact, a recent survey found that 31% of all hiring managers in the US purposely try to avoid hiring young people that belong to Generation Z. According to the survey, 31% of hiring managers say they avoid hiring Gen Zers in favor of older workers. Hiring managers claim that Gen Zers ask for too much money, act entitled, and lack communication skills during their hiring process. Likewise, among the 94% of hiring managers who say they have interviewed Gen Zers, 58% say the Gen Z candidate was not dressed appropriately, 57% say they were struggling with eye contact, and 47% say they asked for unreasonable compensation. It's easy to blame Generation Z for their behavior, but I believe that more of the blame belongs to the system that produced them. Our system of education is supposed to be preparing our young people to face the real world, but it is failing badly. Sadly, math scores for U.S. students just continue to fall. The most recent results of the Program for International Student Assessment, PISA, highlight a concerning trend for U.S. students in the field of math. In comparison to their counterparts in other industrialized nations, American students are falling behind. The rather sobering results revealed a 13-point decline in U.S. students when compared to 2018 exam. We live in a culture that simply does not value academic achievement, and that's especially true when it comes to mathematics. But things are completely different in Asian countries such as Japan, China, and South Korea. Given enough time, they would run circles around us. Many would argue that they already are. A lot of liberal politicians worry about the 5% of U.S. students that are homeschooled, but year after year, students that are homeschooled perform far better on standardized tests than students in our public schools do. In the meantime, homeschooled students are excelling, scoring 12 and 22 percentile points higher than private and public school students, respectively, on standardized academic achievement tests. This is the case across race and income demographics. A 2015 study shows Black homeschool students score 23 to 42 percent points above Black public school students. These results should not be surprising. Traditional schooling, which with its rigid one-size-fits-all approach, is oppressive to the intellect and especially harmful to gifted children who must stifle their natural drive in favor of group conformity. Our system of education is doing a horrible job of teaching students to read, write, and speak and work with numbers, but it's doing a great job of sexualizing our young people. And in the name of this type of education, some of the most horrible things you can imagine is being taught in our schools. New values that would have made previous generations of Americans vomit are being relentlessly promoted, and materials that are not appropriate to read in front of our lawmakers are being made available to our children. Needless to say, the result of all this is indoctrination. This indoctrination has been dramatic. 28% of Gen Z adults, which is surveyed research specify as those aged 18 to 25, identify as LGBTQ according to a report released this week in the Public Religion Research Institute. And that compares to 10% of all adults, 16% of millennials, 7% of Generation X, 4% of baby boomers, and 4% of silent generation, the Institute found. Now, among Gen Zers voters, only 21% identify as Republican, but 28% identify as LGBTQ, and those numbers have enormous implications for the future of our society. Young people are supposed to be our future, but if we stay on the road that we're currently on, we are not going to have a future. We have allowed the liberal elite to steadily move their agenda forward for decades, and now we're literally on the brink of national suicide. This is by Michael Snyder on The End of the American Dream. About the author, Michael Snyder's extremely controversial book entitled Chaos, available on paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, Commissions Earned. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes it by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the economic collapse blog, End of the American Dream, Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. You can connect with Michael on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and share his articles on your own social media accounts. It's definitely a great help. These are such troubled times that people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.